So we're still dividing polynomials. We're still working with polynomials, but this time we're dividing them. We used long division last time. And so we have a little shortcut called synthetic division. Now, synthetic division does not work with every single problem, so that's why we have to teach you both, okay? So this is what you have to look for. When you're dividing by something that says x minus a number, okay, then you can use the synthetic division, okay? So that's the first thing that you need to look for. Well, they have it in the opposite. But then you also need to check to see if the dividend is in standard form, okay? So if it's not in standard form, put in standard form and you'll be good. If it's missing terms, you fill in with zeros, just like we would for long division. So let's go ahead and practice some examples, okay? So we check this. This is in standard form, so it passes the first one, okay? It goes 2x squared, and then 6x, and then the 15. And then you check the next one. Okay, do we have x plus a number or x minus a number? And we do. We have x plus 5, so we're good to go. Okay, so this is the way you're going to set it up. You're going to make a little backwards L, I guess, that you can say. And a line going across. And then we'll just go ahead and put a plus sign there. Okay, in this little box, you're going to go ahead and take the opposite sign of this. So if it says plus 5, then in here, you're going to put a minus 5. Okay, and then you're going to go ahead and take the coefficients of these numbers. So the coefficient of this x squared is 1. Okay, there's no number there. Remember, if there's no number, it's an invisible 1. And then we look at the next coefficient. This coefficient says plus 6, so we're going to put a positive 6 here. Then we go to the next number. It says plus 15, so we're going to put a positive 15 here. Okay, and then these are the steps. So once you have that problem set up, you go through these steps. You drop the first number. So we drop the first number, okay? That's a 1, and then you multiply. So negative 5 times negative 1 is going to give you negative 5, and you write it here. Okay, then from there, you're going to go ahead and add 6 plus negative 5 gives you 1. Okay, then once you get that, you're going to go ahead and multiply again. Negative 5 times 1 gives us negative 5 again. And then we're going to add. Okay, you add 15 plus negative 5 gives us positive 10. Okay, this last number here is your remainder. Okay, so then if this was an x squared and we divided it by an x squared divided by x just gives you x. Okay, so then because this is 1, we're going to write 1x plus 1, and then this is my remainder plus 10. And remember, whenever you have your remainder, you write it over the x plus 5. And that's it. This would be your answer. So that's how you could divide it without using long division. Now this one that's in front of the x, you don't need it. It becomes invisible. It'll just be x plus 1 plus 10 over x plus 5. Okay. It seems a little complicated at first, but once you get the hang of it, it gets easier. Okay, so let's go ahead and remember, we check first, is this in standard form? So 4, 3, x to the third power, x to the second power, x to the first power, and then the number by itself. So it is in standard form. And then here we have x plus 2, so we are good to go. Okay, so I'm going to erase this real quick, and then we put in the little box. Remember, we do the opposite sign. So if it's plus 2, in this little box is going to go a negative 2. You write the plus sign, come across, or you know what, let me move it up because there's not enough space. What did I do? There you go. All right, plus. Then you start writing the coefficient. So the coefficient of this x to the first power is a 1. Then we have a negative 3. Then we have a negative 11. Then we have a positive 5. And then we have a 17. Okay, so I'm going to write the steps. Step 1, you drop the first number. So I'm going to drop it down. Okay, then the next step is going to be to multiply. So step 2, multiply. Multiply. Oh. So we multiply negative 2 times 1, and that gives us negative 2. And then we have to add, so negative 3. So the third step is to add. And negative 3 plus negative 2 gives us negative 5. Okay. And then step 4 is to repeat 2 and 3 over and over again until we're done with all the numbers. Okay, so we repeat 2 and 3. So we multiply again. Negative 2 times negative 5 is a positive 10. Negative 11 plus 10 is negative 1. Then we multiply. Negative 2 times negative 1 is a positive 2. And then we add. 5 plus 2 gives us 7. Then we multiply again. Negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. And we add 17 plus negative 14 is a positive 3. And remember, this is a remainder. Okay. So here we had x to the 4th power. Well, when you divide it by an x, you get x to the 3rd power. So this first one is going to go 1x to the 3rd power. And since it's in standard form, we're going to go down a power. So it'll be, sorry, I don't know why I put it a 2. This should be negative 5, so minus 5x squared. And then here we have negative 1x plus 7 plus, the last one's our remainder. So it's going to be 3 over this, what we divided by. So 3 over x plus 2. Sorry. And then remember, if you write the ones, it's okay. It won't be counted wrong. But the ones become invisible. And this would be our solution. All right. Don't worry. We're going to have more practice just in case it's a little confusing. So we do this again. We make sure we're in standard form. So 3, 2, 1, and none. Okay. X to the 3rd power, x squared, x to the 1st, and then no x's at all. So that's good. And then here we have a minus 3. So this time we have a minus 3 in there. So we put the opposite sign in here, a positive 3. Then we write down the coefficients. Our coefficients are 2, negative 3, negative 5, and negative 12. And then we're going to add them going down. So our very first step is to drop. We drop the 2. And then we multiply. 3 times 2 gives us 6. After we multiply, we add. So negative 3 plus 6 gives us 3. Then we go ahead and multiply. 3 times 3 gives us 9. Then we add again. Negative 5 plus 9 gives us 4. And then we multiply again. 3 times 4 gives you 12. And we add, and this time we get 0 at the very end. That means that we don't have a remainder. Okay? Remember, the last one is your remainder, so that means it divides evenly. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and write down the polynomial. So if this is x to the 3rd power and we just divide it by an x, then that means that we're going to get 2x to the 2nd power plus 3x, and we go in standard form, plus 4, and that's it. We don't have a remainder, so that would be our solution. All right, so we do the same thing again. We check to see, is this in standard form? So we have x to the 3rd power, x squared, x to the 1st, and then the number by itself, so it's good. And then we check here, do we just have x plus or minus a number? And we do, it is plus 10. So because it's a plus 10, then the opposite sign goes inside of the little box. In this case, it'll be a negative 10. We set it up plus, and we write the coefficient. So x to the 3rd power, the coefficient is 1. Then we have 6. Then we have negative 30. And then we have 102. Okay. So then from there, we start off the same step. Step 1, drop the first number. In this case, it's a 1. Then we multiply. Negative 10 times 1 is negative 10. And then you add. 6 plus negative 10 gives you negative 4. Then you multiply again. Negative 10 times negative 4 is a positive 40. Then you add. Negative 30 plus 40 is 10. Then you multiply again. Negative 10 times 10 gives you negative 100. And you add the 102 plus the 100, and that'll give you a remainder of 2. So again, here we had x to the 3rd power, and we divided by x. So that tells you that our first term is going to be x to the 2nd power. So 1x squared minus 4x plus 10 plus our remainder is 2, and you always write your remainder over the dividend. So x plus 10. Now remember, you don't need this one that's here in the front, so I'm just going to erase it. And that's it. Let's go ahead and look at the next one. So we look, is this in standard form? And in this case, it is not in standard form. So since it is not in standard form, it doesn't mean that you don't do it or you don't have to do it, but you can. Now it is the x to the 5th power and then the 1, but we're missing all the terms. We're missing x to the 4th power, x to the 3rd power, and so on. Okay, so we're still going to work this out. So here we have x plus 1. Okay, so that means that the negative 1 needs to go inside the little box. We're going to add, and then there you go. So here we have negative 1 for x to the 5th power. We're missing an x to the 4th power. We're missing an x to the 3rd power. We're missing an x squared. We're missing an x. And then we have the one that's at the very end, which is a number by itself, okay? So you do have to fill in those zeros. Okay, this was x to the 5th, and then the last one's no x's at all. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this negative 1, and we follow the exact same rules. So the only difference is that you do have to fill in a 0 where there is terms missing. Okay, so we drop the negative 1, and then we multiply. Negative 1 times negative 1 gives us a positive 1. Okay, after you multiply, you go ahead and add. So 0 plus 1 is 1. Then you multiply. Negative 1 times 1 gives you negative 1. And we add 0 plus negative 1 is negative 1. Then we multiply. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 is a positive 1. Sorry, I don't know what just happened. Okay. I'm just going to have to finish here. So then here 0 plus 1 is 1. And then we multiply. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. And 0 plus negative 1 is negative 1. And then last, negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1, and 1 plus 1 gives us 2. Now remember, the last one is going to be our remainder. Okay, so then when we write this, since we had x to the 5th power and we divided by 1, now we have x to the 4th power. Okay, so it'll be negative 1 x to the 4th. And then the next one's going to be a positive 1, so it'll be plus 1 x to the 3rd. And then the next one is going to be minus 1x to the 2nd power. The next one is a positive 1x. And then we have the minus 1. And then the 2 at the very end is going to be our remainder, and you write it over your dividend, which is x plus 1. And that's it. All right, let's go ahead and check the next one. So here we have x to the 3rd, x squared, x by itself, but we're missing the number at the very end, the number that doesn't have an x with it. Okay, and then our negative 10 here is going to tell us that in this box, we're going to put a positive 10. Then we start writing the coefficients. So we have 9, 7, negative 3, and we're missing the number that's by itself, so we do have to put a 0 there. I'm going to put the plus sign and then a straight line across. So we follow the same steps. We drop the 9. Then we multiply. 9 times 10 is 90. Then we add. 90 plus 7 is 97. Then we multiply. 10 times 97 is 970. Then we add, and that gives us 967. Then we multiply. 10 times 967 is 9,670, and we add. 0 plus 9,670 is 9,670. And remember, the last one is our remainder. Okay, so here we had x to the 3rd power, and we divided by x, so that means that our first term here is going to start with x squared. And then plus 97x plus 967 plus 9,000. Oh, sorry, I'm running out of space. Plus 9,670 over whatever we divided by. So in this case, we divided by x minus 10. And that's it. Thank you guys. Bye.